Okay, it's almost 8:30. So I think we have 19 members so far joined over here, and similar 20 members at YouTube. We will be starting in a while. I'm just waiting for 2 to 3 minutes more in case someone is joining on the last moment. Um, Someone is asking, can I have the Zoom link? I'm here. I don't have Zoom on my phone. Okay. So let me see if I can. I don't know, where does that Zoom link on? Or maybe. mm, Okay, so it's 31. I'll just wait for 3 more minutes. So people who are watching this from YouTube, I know you may have some questions, but I'll not be able to give uh, your response on the YouTube chat window, but maybe if I refer in between, I'll answer that during whenever I will be taking a pause. And at the same time, I'll be recording this session in case we need it. So I'll record it in this computer. And let me quickly just give a quick introductions about myself. I believe people you are able to hear me, and I can see people have started joining. So most of you, I believe you know me from our YouTube channel or from our um, Telegram group or some forums from our articles. Few of you are interacting with me for the first time. For them, I'm Niladri Mahapatra. I have kind of 21 years of industry experience. Out of that, 10 years I'm into Agile world. I do Agile transformations, consulting, training, and those areas. I'll not go more about myself. We'll talk about the topic that currently we have identified for today. Today, we will be actually talking about an Agile transformation journey. I'll not say this is the best approach or this is one of the good approach. This is just an experience I want to share, and how we actually started these transformations, starting from talking with the management until implementing to the team level, and few of the challenges what we faced, how we have handled all of them. We'll start on them. So I can still see people are joining. I wanted to just give 1 to 2 minutes more, but in the meanwhile, if I just want to mention that if anyone you have some questions, you can raise your hand or put it in the chat window in between, or at the end of the sessions I'll go into those questions and try to find out uh, how many of them I can answer. Couple of members who have joined here, I believe you also have experienced some of the Agile transformation journey in your career path. Probably that will be some areas that you can share, and that will be a learning point for me as well. Okay, I think now we can begin. It's already 8:35. So for a better bandwidth, I'll just quickly switch off my video so that everyone can focus on the slides that I am doing. And I believe everyone, you are able to see my slide right now. So let's begin. So what is the tipping point when I'm talking about um, agile transformation? So agile transformation in a very generic way, why any company wants to go into a transformation. So maybe they why they need to do, they may be using a traditional way of working, or they may doing agile, but that's a bluff agile, that's not a pure agile. Those are the different area where we need to transform them into an agile way of working. Now when I'm talking about agile, I'm not talking about it's a scale agile or nexus or dad or less. It's a vanilla agile that I'm talking about. Scrum team or Kanban team, typically working with their product owners and management, very simple areas. But even within that, we'll try to find out in a simplest way, if there are multiple teams, how we are actually scaling them up. Now, if they are currently working on in these particular two areas, what are the tipping points? So sometimes it's a demand from the client. Sometimes they are facing some problems, and based on those problems, they may need, okay, there is some fixes they need to do, need to apply. Maybe they are working on a traditional way. Maybe they are working on so-called agile, but they still have some problem. Sometimes the organization wants to go into agile because that's the most trending things in the market, and that's why they wants to go into agile. And sometimes few organizations, service provider, they sell agile, and that are the tipping points where the organizations may need to move from traditional or bluff agile, or broken agile, or you can say so-called agile, to somewhere where they can get benefit of doing agile. Now before we go into transformation, there are few actions that we need to do. When you start do any agile transformations, we need to go for first observations. Observe for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, for each and every part of that particular organizations, to find out how the team are working, how they are interacting, how the requirement is flowing, how the communication is there. All areas we'll be observing, and then we'll make some recommendations. So in this case study, we'll talk about what exactly we have observed and what is our recommendations, and then from the recommendations we'll give what exactly the benefit the organizations will get. And then once this benefit is actually realized by the management and they give us a go ahead, we'll start doing the implementation, and we'll start doing the agile transformation starting with a roadmap. And once your transformation is done, we'll start doing our monitoring. That's the very generic approach we go for any kind of agile transformation. Now, we'll primarily focus on this agile transformation area out of all these boxes. And again, definitely once you have transformed, when you are monitoring on the agile practices, there may be an opportunity where you will be maturing them, the agile practice, by multiple steps. But we'll be primarily focusing on the agile transformation. So when we talk about the transformation, the strategies that we actually talked about here, if you see the pre-actions that we will be starting with our strategy. So we first did observations, and based on the observations, what we have realized, they have some issues on the quality. Quality in the sense there are too much of bugs, they are doing too much of rework, their release is not stabilized, multiple times they need to go to rollback. There are multiple different releases going from different teams. So, and there are releases having lots of bugs in the production as well. So those are the few areas that we identify, okay, this is one of the observation. Now, when we talk about the cost, we found the resource utilizations, their plan, their capacity, how much they are wasting, how many times they are switching between one team to another team, sometime ad hoc request coming from the management, sometime they committed some stories in the sprint, but they are not working on. So this particular case, what I'm talking about, where they were actually doing agile because they think they were using Jira and they were having daily stand up, and that's why they think, okay, we are kind of doing agile. And I believe most of you know that's the common thinking on the industry where the companies started doing agile, they started believing that okay, daily stand up and Jira, this is make them doing agile. Now, when we talk about the schedule, they were having a couple of problems. Their requirements were not planned. There are too much of ad hoc requests. Their plan was not very fruitful. They are sometimes they are not doing any plan. Their prioritization was not happening. On the last day, product owner struggles to find out what story they need to work on. So those are the different areas on the schedule part we identified. When we are talking about the requirement or in terms of stories, the visibility, they don't have matured user stories, where some area they don't have a detailed description, just one liner without acceptance criteria. A few areas just have a one liner in the summary, descriptions and acceptance criteria was not there. And also the requirement, when I'm talking about the flow, it's kind of their communications, how they used to do. Many requirements comes as email, many requirements come as Jira, many requirements come as WhatsApp. There are multiple areas of observations that we have. When we started observing the transparency, we found okay, there is no visibility what they are doing on a Scrum board or Kanban board or a release metrics, or how the stories are completed, how many is ready for releases, what is their release pipeline, or how many stories they have in their backlog for upcoming few stories. If they have any risk, any issues, any bottlenecks, none of them are transparent. Everyone, many items, those are floating between emails, WhatsApp. Sometimes team knows that, product owner or management don't know this is something happening. And they didn't had a long-term plan as well. From a portfolio perspective, they didn't had any kind of plan that you can say okay, this is kind of 6-month plan or 3-month plan, this is our visions for next 3 months. That was also not there. Their communication was very problematic. So these are there are many different areas to observe, but these are the areas where we actually find out the problems, or we can fix it through a proper transformation. So the communications, the mode of communication, phone call, WhatsApp, email, Jira, we need to streamline that. There was no record of communication. Sometimes that's in a WhatsApp, sometimes just a phone call. That was not there. And there was no predefined communication channel. And if there are multiple team working, within the team, there was no communications or no record of communication, or they were not actually communicating with each other. When we talk about the management visions or the stakeholders' visions, the visions, some places they have the visions, but the vision was not very much transparent and aligned with the development team. They didn't had anything called strategy that can be easily visible by the development team. They have their strategy on their notepad, Word, Excel, but nothing was in a transparent way. And that was not actually influencing the story movement from there. And long-term plan, definitely, that we talked about. And when I was talking about the team compositions, one team have 20 members, another team have 2 members. The team members, few teams, they only work on one component based development. They were not into a functional based development they were doing. They were jumping from one team to another team, or one nature of one another nature of work. So there are lots of improvement opportunities we have identified on those areas. So once these observations is done, we did a brainstorming and find out okay, there are some recommendations. And from that recommendation, I will talk about the recommendation in a while, but what is the target goal, what we'll be achieving? Again, on those same topic, our target goal was reduce the number of bugs, organize the work, and reduce the rework that currently we are doing. We will be enabling tracking and executions. We'll do release planning that we will be enabling so that we can improve the quality of the code. And some of the engineering practices like your code reviews and code quality checks that we have done, not as a part of the transformation, introduced as a part of the maturity assessment, and introduce that. When we're talking about the cost, I'm talking about only the development related cost, not the infrastructure cost, or not the license cost, or not that area. So when I'm talking about the cost, our goal is to utilize the capacity at the maximum level, reduce your rework, and better value delivery that can be governed by some governance team. We'll talk about that, what exactly the governance team is. Schedule, we defined, okay, plan development schedule, clear roadmaps with milestones, short and long term both we will be having. Requirement, when I'm talking about the user stories, the match your requirement clarity, transparent. So it's not only the user story, it can be form of a epic, it can be have some wireframe in Confluence. We will be using Confluence for the minimum number of documentations required, and all those areas we have a plan for increasing the requirement visibility and maturity. Transparency, we decided and communicated, okay, this is, we'll be having multiple information radiator. For an example, at the team level, at the portfolio level, at multiple teams combinations, as a combined program level, we will be introducing matrices. We'll talk about how we can highlight risk dependencies and constraint and the reportings. Then when we talk about the communications, we also mentioned, okay, communications definitely as of now, we will start doing majority of the communications through Jira and Confluence. Any communication related to your work that is can be done in Jira and Confluence, let's not do it in email or WhatsApp. That was a very common practice earlier, and we need to define our communication, that what kind of communication should go at what channel, and we define those communication channel as well. Now if I talk about the vision, so we decided we'll be giving you a strategy backlog through which we will be having good visibility from the strategy level. From a stakeholder perspectives or business owner perspective, that will be one source of goal, along with a portfolio, Jira portfolio plan, where we can see a 6-month or 1-year goal, very high level, and that's the roadmap they can actually generate from there. And the teams, we decided we need to break down the teams into smaller and effective teams. Some team reorg is required. We also thought about their ad hoc requests, so we decided we will be going for a dedicated rapid action team, and all the team should be dedicated for their one goal. If they are working on sprint, let's them think about sprint, let's not them jump from one area to another area. So that's one of the area that we actually talked about, the team restructures. Now quickly, before I jump into the next slide, if anyone have any questions, we can take it quickly, and then I'll go to the next slide. Anyone, you have a questions? Yeah, you can ask me right now, because I'll not be able to open the chat window.
Yeah,
I had a question.
Okay, so okay, one by one, please.
Yeah, I'll go first. So regarding the requirements, right? So mature requirements, clarity, transparent, and streamlined flow. So are you recommending like requirement should be coming from single source of truth? Like we have to maintain requirements only either in Jira or
yes. So again, when I'm talking about user story and requirement is actually not the same thing. But here I have mentioned is a requirement, because this is something we are about to present to the management, and they will not be able to understand what the term user story is. So that's why we mentioned. So when I'm talking about requirement, any user stories, epic, technical spikes, or any work they need to work on, that has to come through Jira.
Okay. Thank you.
Jira will be, yeah.
Yeah, second rapid question. Sorry, I won't take much time. So regarding the context switching, how do you, what do you recommend if a QA has to participate in 2 Scrum teams? So what are your recommendations?
Yeah, that's not a ideal good practice. One QA is working on 2 different teams. My recommendation is you need to, you should not be doing anything apart from the one sprint team that you are. If you are splitted or shared team, many organization does that, and if based on their organization constraint, you may not be able to stop that. But to get the best value, you need to stop the context switching. If if you have one QA sometimes working on team A, sometimes working on team B, many times it will be lots of problems for one team because another team's demands that availability is more, another team also demands that, and that person will be on a dilemma where to give maximum focus, because the one person have a limited amount of bandwidth. If even you have said okay 50% this person, this team, 50% that team, but that doesn't work in practical life. So be 100%, or let's other team, if those are two small team, for example 3 member 4 member, merge them to one team, so what they can, that person can focus into one team. If those are already a big team, they should have another dedicated QA.
Thanks, Niladri.
Okay,
Thank you.
this is Ankit. My question is rather basic. You said that the prioritization of backlog was not happening here. So, what do you suggest that what is the right time to prioritize the backlog? And I also wanted to know that how its time is accounted in the capacity planning.
Okay, you have two questions. So first question, let's talk about your priority one. So as of now, what they were actually having, there was no prioritizations happen. So prioritization should always happen continuously. It's not like that we will be doing only at the time of sprint planning. It should be a continuous process, and continuously your backlog should be have all the prioritized stories at the top or in some proper state where it can be easily identified, and there should be enough number of prioritized and refined story, so that at any given point of time, if some stories needs to drop during the planning, they should not spend time on refine at that point of time. They can easily pick from the priority list. That's what I am mentioning. Is that answer your question?
Yeah, so it should be continual, not just restricted to the sprint planning part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Neeladri,
So
Naveen here.
another question was that how its time is accounted in the capacity planning, or how its time is accounted in the sprint plan, because
How
you need to
time
spend some
is
time.
accounted for the sprint planning?
No, how the prioritization time, the time that it will take to prioritize the backlog, how this time is accounted in the sprint, because it will take some time.
Yeah, priority doesn't part of your sprint planning. Priority always has to be. So what they were doing when before the transformation, the product owners spending lots of time on identifying which story they needs to work on in this sprint. That is what we had to stop and recommended. The prioritization has to happen before or as a continuous process, so that at the time of sprint planning, we should not go for prioritization. We should pick whatever the story is already prioritized.
Okay, so I just wanted to know that this time must have been accounted in the 2 week sprint, right?
So that's
Or
product owner's
what?
job.
Hmm.
Prioritization is pretty much product owner job. When we talk about 2 week
Hmm.
sprint, okay, let me
Hmm.
get your question first.
So my question is that okay, I know that product owner does the product prioritization, backlog prioritization. However, they need input from the business analyst and sometimes development team as well. So they
why
need
why
to.
why prioritization? So sometimes it's required, means once in a while they may need some input from the development team in terms of some technical dependencies or cross teams dependencies. But 90% cases, product owner are the best person who are talking with the stakeholders, identifying the stakeholders need, business owners need, and prioritizing the story. Sometimes product owners are intelligent enough to find out okay, there are multiple functionalities that need separate cross teams dependencies, but they don't need development team in a dedicated way when they are doing prioritization.
Okay.
Uh, This is more. This will not come under the review. You have we have a dedicated time slot called backlog refinement, where a product owner, along with their SMEs and the architects, who are we call. So with there, I think when they are doing a slicing, there the prioritization will come, because a product owner only define the, what do you call it, define the backlog items. But when it refinement happening, that time the prioritization will get changed because of the technical dependencies or any other things.
Okay,
Right.
thanks,
And
Naveen.
again, you are also doing backlog refinement as a parallel activity. So when you are doing parallel activity, many new dependencies, risk will arise, and that prioritization may change at that point of time also. So Ankit, what's is it not answered your question, or you still have some doubt?
I just wanted to know that, as Naveen said, that you'll have a dedicated time for that. So when ideally it should have that
Dedicated
dedicated.
time for what? Okay, let's park this question now.
Yes.
We can take
Neeraj,
that
can
at
I
the end
ask
of the
this
session.
question with the context? Because I just wanted to
Sure,
pull
sure.
pull back from that our transformation topic. Just wanted to see what could be the target goal for the stakeholders level. Because apart from strategy or this, and when I am having a department having a multiple teams, okay, what could be my target goal? Is it anything called predictability, or what you recommend? Let's say I'm doing a departmental transformation where around close to, I'm having around 12 project teams are there, okay, and
Mhm.
the entire team I'm doing a transformation. Maybe they are doing the hybrid agile, where again
Yeah,
I'm
so I think Naveen, I got your point. Maybe that we can answer at the end of the sessions. Let's go with these particular case studies, and a few of the answers you will get during what we are actually doing with the stakeholders, what we are doing with the business, and probably from there we you can get few of the answers, and if that is not answered, will come at the end of the sessions, because that is
sure.
little different scenarios you are getting. Sulav, you also have a question.
Yes, Nilagri. So I
Yeah.
have just two very quick questions, and it is regarding your last slide, and
Hmm.
that was the observation. So,
Okay.
so when we would be doing observation, so you
Hmm.
just told us that we have this communication. So I have, I mean, how you are doing the record of communication, number one, means record of communication within the team, how you are taking it, how you are maintaining it, and across the teams as well. And second question is, when we say intra team communication, I would also like to know how you are doing it for non-IT departments like HR or admin or
Yeah, so
PMO.
that is again, see, non-IT department, we can take that as a later state. Let's go with this particular case study that we are going into, because what you are asking, that's a generic questions for non-IT, how we can do a transformation.
Right,
Now, your first questions, what you are talking about, how much time or when do you do the observation? So once you start, some company invite you, or you started going there as a part of your assignment, you start the transformation with observation. So sometimes for a large engagement you may need 1 month or more, or sometimes, and for small engagement you can do it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But why I'm saying 2 weeks to 3 weeks, because you need to have minimum of one sprint or two sprint executions and observe how they are doing. So this is before you start recommending anything. You need to spend kind of a 1 month of time on observing and identifying what are the areas
without
that,
participating within the team
yes,
functioning.
you,
We are
yeah,
just
you will be go on all the events, all the ceremonies, all the reportings, how they are working, and 101 as well, because
and
sometimes as,
particular methods for recording that communication, as you mentioned that record of communication is important activity.
yeah, record of communication, I'm talking, not talking about this observation. I'm talking about record of communication. For an example, there is some issues came up for one of the stories, and Mr. X wants to give some information to Mr. B. So if they send it in an email or they just call them, there is no record of that discussion. So we mentioned we need to have the record of those communications by using Jira and
Okay.
related to that story. So that is what our goal was.
Mm. Fine, fine. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Now, once we have plan, this is what exactly we will be going through. We now need to think about, okay, now let's it's the time we need to talk with our management. That's very important, because when we talk about any agile transformations, we need to go for a top down approach, and we need to have the support from management, and we need to first convince our management that this is what the benefits and goal will be, and I need your support. This will be my plan. I need to talk with your all product management. I need to talk with all business. I need to talk with the development team and all those. So we divided those discussions into 4 different pillars. We decided, okay, we'll talk about and have some discussions with the business involvement. We'll have some meetings, trainings, discussions with the product ownerships. We'll talk about how our engineering team they are doing and how they are executing. We'll talk about them, and then we'll go for as a whole organizations level what we are doing. And we talked about for a business, we need to talk about their product development. So training sessions on product development and transitions from traditional to agile. So we planned few of the trainings that we will be doing to the product management. We also mentioned, okay, we as a team, as a product management team, as a development team, or a QA team, they will also have some expectations from the business, and those expectations we'll also mention with the business that this is what we are expecting. We also mentioned what will be the communication plan where business is involved, how they will be cunning. It's not only just the medium of communication, the route of communication or the channel of communication. Should business directly reach to the development team, or they should route through product owners? The product owners needs to be translated into a user story. How those communication plan, what is the nature of the communications, that we'll talk about. And also for the business, we wanted to give them an idea how they can make their visions, or they already have their visions, but how they can actually make it clear in Jira system or any system where it will be more transparent and useful for the team. That is what we have identified. This is what we are right now doing a discussion with the management, that this is what is our plan is. Now, to management, we also mentioned that to product owner and product management, we have a couple of areas that we already have identified. We first need to talk about the alignment of the business, how different business we are working with, which product owner is aligned with which business. Do they have a strategic backlog? Can they make a strategy backlog? It's not a story level, but ideally in a little higher level, maybe feature level or epic level, so that we can actually get a high level idea from different business, which product owner, what's the plan, when it will be ending. And similarly, as someone you talked about the prioritizations, as of now, even there was no prioritization, the stories were also not matured up. So we need to give them some training, some understanding how to mature the requirement for execution in advance. So future backlog, future readiness, and the same vision from a product owner and product management aspect, how they can visualize their vision, how they can make their vision transparent, and how they can share their vision with the team. They will be translating the business vision, big visions distributed into multiple product owners, and product owner will be making a small vision. So all of these items that you are looking into, that will be interconnected. And finally, as of now, there are many times they are having big requirements, very big requirements, those are coming up. So we need to go for a training where we will be train them how to split stories and different areas, for an example, on the basis of complexity, on the basis of functionality, on the basis of different business units. There are multiple ways you can actually split user story. So that's the target. We are still doing a discussion with our management, and we said this is what are the points that our plan is to do and talk with our product management and product owner. Now, what we will be doing with the engineering team, we mentioned, okay, for engineering team, we need to strictly define whether they are working on Scrum or Kanban. The framework identification is important. We need to do some restructuring of the team composition to make them cross-functional, as well as they can independently deliver some values. When I'm talking about teams, as of now, estimation and sizing was not there. We will be introducing story points. even they are not very much comfortable going out of the effort based estimation, will decided, okay, let's with both during the transitions, and later if you think they are maturing it up, then maybe we'll be changing it accordingly. And then when we're talking about ceremonies and events, we have identified these are the ceremonies and events they need to go. They need to follow some agile practices, who will be participating, what will be the cadence, and everything we'll be talking about. And we also realize there are lots of improvement areas on the way they use Jira. So some Jira training on the Jira areas, understanding how Jira helpful for a Scrum team and Kanban team, or combinations of multiple teams as a portfolio layers, how we can use that. That's what we have planned for engineering team. And now for the organizations, we said, okay, we will be defining multiple milestones. So product development milestones we'll be defining in some of the Jira next gen project roadmap, or doing a portfolio roadmap. We'll be making a clear cut roadmap of the organization's total visions, the business, each business have something. The roadmap will not be one-time activity that needs to be revised, because as we are working on agile based on our progress, that may need some tweaks. We also introduce some status reporting for the organizations at different layers: weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly status report on progress, risks, trend, and achievement. Though agile says you don't need to go for this monthly status report and progress risk, but we don't want it to eliminate everything at the first place, because that may change their mind. Okay, this is something we will be totally changing the way of working. So we had a plan to change them or remove them, but eventually. And similarly, we need to introduce some RR and RASI matrix, risk and roles and responsibilities. And Rasi matrix, those actually a concept of a waterfall areas, that who is responsible for what and who is accountable for what, that we have introduced. Though the Rasi matrix was not actually implemented when we started the implementation, but this is the initial promise that what we have given. And also there will be multiple different nature of work. In Jira, we'll be having different workflows for different type of business and different type of user stories, but we need to have an exit criteria, that what are the criteria that business thinks, okay, this is now ready. So it's kind of a definition of done. If I'm using that exit criteria, because we are using Kanban and Scrum and few areas in Kanban, if you need to have exit criteria between two columns, we are having that exit criteria over there as well. And also we decided, okay, we need to give some KPIs and metrics, kind of a trend analysis, that how the team is progressing, how the team, we are utilizing the capacity, how the bugs is getting reduced. All those areas we will be talking about and giving to the organizations. So now we also mentioned management, that before we start, these are the areas we may fail, because we had to somewhere safeguard ourselves as well. This is actually practical situations. Maybe you will not be able to say someone that why someone is showing why they will fail or why they are talking about fail. If I am doing it practically as a agile transformer, I need to have myself some areas to safeguard me, that if I don't get enough enterprise backlog, maybe what's the reasons, the product owner is also occupied with something else, they are not getting enough bandwidth to create that. So we need management support, what they are expected to do. Product backlog not having adequate requirement, resistant to adopt the new practice at different level, too much of ad hoc request if we get, not following the channel of requirement flow, team members jumping from one team to another, not using tools Jira Confluence to document requirement, frequent change in team composition, reaching to conclusion too early. That's actually a good point, because I also mentioned management that agile transformation is not overnight change. You need to keep patience. Don't go into a conclusion, okay, after 1 week, okay, no, it's not happening, let's go back. So these are the different areas that we actually talked about these areas normally agile transformation failed, but if management supports, none of these area will be occurred, or none of these points will be appeared, and the team will successfully able to implement that. So this is one area that we wanted to share that show that management, we need your support. And also we show them a graph something like that, that initially I know you are doing it a good form, but once we'll do these transitions, there will be lots of restrictions come up, lots you may observe some of the performance is coming down when we'll be coming to storming stage. And similarly, when we'll be you can see once we are habituated with that practice, the norming state will come up and performing. So now the managements actually, when we show them this particular graph, they ask me, okay, how long this storming stage will be? Is it for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months? So again, that's where we need to convince. See, as of now, if I want to go for a prototype or few teams, maybe it will be just 2 weeks, or maybe maximum 1 month. If you want to go for an entire enterprise where you have 15, 16 teams, it may take little longer. But that's how deep it will be coming down from forming to storming. This is actually a theory. Normally all transformation takes a dip on their performance when they do. Sometimes they can recover within 2 months, sometimes they don't go into that below of the forming state, but stays for 3-4 months. So those are the different scenarios. I cannot commit at the right point that okay, this will be for 1 month or 2 months, but let's assume it will be somewhere around 30 to 45 days that will be happening. In 45 days we'll be able to complete 3 sprint, and 3 sprint time is sufficient for making the changes that we are actually expecting. Now we also give them a roadmap of 2019, that when we actually started this transformation, that was somewhere around I think March or April, and we were doing all those discussions. So management asked, okay, give us what is your roadmap. So we said, okay, by mid of July we'll start the training, awareness, tool setup, PO team, engineering team, business, that we'll do. And the July end we'll start having our strategy backlog and team reorganizations. Mid July we'll execution the kickoff of workflow, framework, ceremony, cadence, entry exit criteria, team alignment. And we'll try to look into the communication plan more religiously from August end. And September, so we'll be able to complete that communication plan that we have committed. By September end, we will be ready for all the metrics and the trend analysis. And mid-October, we'll do a retrospective. So this retrospective is not about any sprint or any Kanban. This retrospective is again about the entire transformation. We'll retrospect how it was done. Is there any improvement opportunities we still have? Is there some areas that we have missed out, or something we can do good? And this is also for our betterment for any other agile transformation. When we will go for, we will use those learning from this transformation. That's why we always do a retrospective. And mid-October we'll do our first maturity assessment to see how agile they are and make some improvement plan for upcoming, because agile is not something that you have transformed and they have transformed. You need to continuously improve from there. Okay, before I go ahead, let me know if anyone have any questions quickly, and then I'll go ahead.
Hey Niladri, Srikanth here. So
Yeah.
do you have any recommendations to help or move the teams from storming to performing stages?
See,
How do we help the team?
see, storming to performing, the recommendation is same. The same recommendations what is actually took them from forming to storming, because this is a stage. Once it's the storming stage, if you have came to storming stage for agile transformation change, it's a change in the way that you are working. It will automatically go to the norming state if you continuously follow them. So for an example, I'm giving a very simple layman's example. As of now, what was happening, product owner gives, okay, these are the 5 user story, start working on them. I'll want to check them by end of the week. Now, if you say no, see, we need to work on a proper way. So all the stories needs to be committed by the team. You need to give a 15 days time. Instead of 5, you can give them at least 10, but make sure all the stories meet our definition of ready. We need to form a definition of ready for each team. If all the stories does not meet, then it will not be taken by the team. That's actually something very bad for the product owner, because they were thinking earlier there was no problem, we just have the user story one liner and the team was started working on. Now the team initially they see, okay, on the first iterations, they, instead of having 5 stories or 10 stories, they are having 2 or 3 stories, they have matured it up. Their performance down very came down to storming stage. At the same time, product owner, when they were actually not having enough work, the entire sprint they have worked on maturing of the user stories, and that become a practice. Next time onwards, they were able to take optimized capacity of user stories and start. Those are very good quality, those were having less bugs, there was less delays on clarifying doubts, and you will automatically go into that. So the strategy or recommendation is, stick to discipline, stick whatever you have identified, follow that, you will automatically move to the norming state. Okay. All right, I got
Hello,
one.
this is Saili Nilatri.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is Saili. I have a question. What role should a Scrum Master or an Agile coach play from moving from these team phases, norming, storming, performing?
See, in norming, this is actually not a team's single team's state, or this is actually, maybe it can be a team state, but when I'm talking about when they are transforming, the transformation actually initiated maybe from the enterprise coach or some of the agile transformer who might have hired for a short term or as they came as a consultant. But only thing, not only the management support, all the scrum master should support, should align with what the coach is suggesting. If scrum master say, if the coach says, okay, let's not have any stories committed if it is not meeting the definition of ready, so Scrum Master should follow that. When you need to help the team to have that definition. So again, there are multiple ways. If you go into granular definition of ready, may become a bottleneck for the team. So let's not have that bottleneck for just having the definition of ready. I'm talking about if the story point is not there, let's have them a story point estimate. I'm not saying that initial story point estimation has to be a perfect estimation or perfect sizing, but they need to move into that practice, they need to move into that discipline, they will mature it up eventually, but first you need to move change into the culture. And scrum master from a team level who are actually facilitating the team's transformation by supporting the local team as well as the transformations guidance. Is that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
to a larger
All right.
extent.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Will then anyone have any other questions? I saw some messages. That was Yogesh. Yogesh, can you ask the question instead of in this chat window? Okay, we'll go ahead.
Niladri, I have one question. Sorry. Actually, while the transformation is happening, actually, we have taken the buy-in everything from the client, but the major problem here is because there is something like delivery will be impacted, right, while the transformation is happening. But how exactly the business is handling in this case? Because if you take a bigger organization, because they have already committed the delivery things to the stakeholders, but the
Yes.
transformation is happening. So what's the expectation, how to deal with the delivery things, because there is a serious conflict between the process and delivery, how exactly we need to handle
Exactly.
it?
See, whenever you are doing this transformation, as of now, for any kind of transformation, not only agile transformation always slow down your process during the transformation. So when you actually discuss with the business, you already had a meeting for I think 2 days of meeting where you actually talked about the expectations. Now the delivery definitely will be hampered for one sprint or two sprint, but if you combine your three, you need to make them understand that okay, if you're looking for one sprint, ideally what you are doing is for an example a volume of 10 10 10 10 10 constantly. For an example, over here what you will be doing is initially you may come down to 6 7 or 5, and then after that you will be start giving 15 15. What was happening earlier, there were lots of bugs coming up and the team was actually fixing those bugs in the later sprint. Now the team will not be fixing any bugs, they will be able to help you create new functionality during every sprint. So in every sprint where they were actually giving 5 functionalities and fixing 10 bugs or 5 bugs, now they will be giving 8 to 9 functionality every sprint. You need to make them understand why this transformation is important. And if you have something, for an example, there is something very critical releases you have that may be going to next sprint, so let's that go out now. Once you will able to see, you need to find out a right spot also for that particular team. You maybe start it little later. Little later doesn't mean after 6 months, maybe 2 3 sprints you will start changing that team. If you are having multiple teams, you are not the only person who will be involving on the transformation. There will be multiple team members working with you as a coach, as a transformer, and they will be assigned to sets of teams and they will be closely monitoring how they are doing. The very important thing is, okay, as you are, so there are two different natures of business we have. One is a
Yeah, so
service or
exactly. Yeah, Niladri, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, thank you for that questions. Yeah, there because my organization is a bigger organization, that too especially into banking. There is a serious conflict. I mean, there are a lot of challenges between the delivery and the process implementation. Because as a
Mhm.
coaches and scrum master, we are trying to, I mean, we are working hard to implement the process
So
transformation.
you are a service industry, you are a product based company.
No, it's a both actually. We are from vendor actually. So I mean the transformation journey. I mean both vendors and clients both are engaging.
Mhm.
So yeah, so bigger organization because the coaches all think. I mean everyone Scrum Master. They're having they are facing a challenges in the delivery part because ultimately at the end of the day for customer delivery is important because they are not convincing, they are not compromising on the delivery, but at the same time they are expecting the transformation also, because how to maintain it between the process implementation and
Yeah,
the
see,
delivery. Yeah.
see, if I am, so that's why when you go for a transformation, you need to get the buy-in from your business as well. So whomever you are actually saying they want
Exactly.
the delivery and they want the
Yeah.
process,
Yeah,
if you,
Niladhari.
so those are both can be done, but you need to prioritize that your delivery or process may need to delayed for some time. When we talk about the agile values, they are the customer and they need to collaborate. We are not going into a contract negotiation, so you are not going into a fixed bid project where you already signed a SOW. You are continuously collaborating with the customer. And if
Yeah,
you
Niladhari.
so
Yeah,
ideally,
sorry to interrupt, Niladri. Sorry, actually, because here actually the client we have taken the buy-in. Actually, even client also agreed that something is get we delayed because of this process implementation. But in a bigger organization, especially in banking, there are some kind of mandatory requirements like. Yeah, I think because there's those deliveries already committed because of transformation journey. I mean, at the end of the day, end user they will not care how exactly your transformation is going on and all these challenges. They will not care. They want only mandatory requirements, something the bank should deliver. That's all. So even client also knows that challenges, but ultimately the suffering part here is the coaches and the scrum masters because they are unable to. Because at the end of the day, we need to listen for the customer, right, Anil Adri? So
yeah,
actually,
see,
Can I take
yeah,
a stab here? My name is Debanjan. I would just like to answer this question because I have also
yes,
a lot of experience working with banks.
sure, Devanjan.
Yeah. So what I would like to say here is, I mean, whoever asked this question, like honestly speaking, it is not your problem actually, because and like when you talk about the client, you're talking about the IT part of the organization. When the IT part of the organization, as a centralized decision, has decided to employ a coach to do an agile transformation, it is really on them to manage their stakeholder, which is the business or the end user. Believe me, it's not really your problem. I know what you're going through, but this is
Exactly.
not something
Yeah, yeah.
which you
It's
can
not.
solve.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not
yeah.
something which you can solve. And all you
Yeah, yeah.
can do is escalate this internally to your IT organization's client. It is
True.
really their problem to manage. You cannot do anything about it. That's what I feel.
Exactly, it's not our
Yeah,
problem.
definitely. So,
Absolutely, yeah, it's not our coach problem. Coach cannot do anything, but ultimately, something we need to showcase, right? I mean, to the customer.
yeah, see,
Something
I
some.
can understand that as you are coming from a vendor organizations, there are different pressure on you. Even if you want to escalate, you don't know, you will be escalating about the client to the
True.
service provider. That's
Exactly.
a different challenge. So let's discuss on these details. Let's go through this one, and we can have at the end some question answers on your particular case, and maybe something I'll able to answer, maybe something some already members who are there, they can also able to answer that. Before I go to the next slide, there is one questions from the YouTube I got, that is from Gomakadi. Should we go enter organization transformation or start with a couple of teams and move forward? Okay, it's all actually depends. Enter organization, how big your organization is. If your organization is too big, it's always better if you go with the entire organization, but one person will not be involved. There will be a group of team who are doing the transformations, and they are synchronized with one common plan. Now, many organizations, they don't rely on the agile transformation very well. They may say, okay, can you go for a pilot for 5 teams and let's see how does that goes. You can go that, but if you ask me, my recommendation is, if you really have a goal for targeting the entire organizations, you spending the time for those transformer for 3 months or 4 months, and again they will be putting the same amount of time. It's better start doing that at the same time. Whoever is going for the agile transformation, they already have experience on transforming large organizations, small organizations. If I'm talking about a large organizations, you may realize there are few organizations within there, they have a small department, though act as an individual organization. In few large organizations, few department want to go into agile, few department wants to stay on the same area. So it all depends, but if it is in your hand, if you want to choose, or if you have that opportunity to choose, go with the entire organization wise transformation. It will be much more easier. Now again, based on the size of your organization, you may go into a simple Scrum or vanilla Scrum and agile, or you can go into any large scale Scrum framework. That's it depends on how that organization is. Okay, now I'll go ahead for the next slide, and we'll talk about uh, the next step. What we have requested them, that we need few SPOC, because as we are doing the transformation, there are multiple product owner, there are multiple businesses, there are multiple different roles involved, but can we have a one person identified, so that in case we want to communicate something, if we want to mention something, that SPOC, a single point of contact, can easily be connected. And if there is a requirement of or need of doing a combined discussions, we can definitely do that. But at least having a SPOC at for doing the team reorg, who will be the SPOC who can give us a go ahead, okay, your this team reorg is okay, because I can give you a recommendation based on that, but I need to final go ahead for that. When I'm talking about setting up tools, Jira, Confluence, who can actually give me and go ahead, okay, your recommendation is good, let's go ahead. It can be one person as SPOC for all, it can be different persons, but this is what we ask them to give. Then setting up expectations from team. So maybe we need to identify some project manager or team managers who are some of the team leads from different teams, who can be identified. Primarily the Scrum Master, maybe from every team, can be identified. And also we finalize that we need to form a governance team, because we'll talk about why that governance team is in a few upcoming slide, who will be the Spock for forming the governance team, because that point of time there was no governance team, and we recommended that we need to have a governance team, and who will be the Spock to define that governance team. Now, once this all information we have received, we started the journey. So we'll give you very high level glimpse of what exactly we have done, and that may give you some information. So when we talk about the journey begins, there are a couple of areas that we were actually working on. So if I'm talking about the enterprise backlog, let me have the annotations also with the red color. Yeah. So we said, see, as of now, we need to have a epic backlog or enterprise level backlog. Everyone able to hear me, right? Am I audible?
Yeah, Nilaji.
Yeah. All right. So we will be forming a separate backlog that will be having only epic, and epic may have some different engineering teams. So we did some customizations on Jira, combination of that, but over here from all the epics will be distributed to different team from the strategy backlog. This is what we are actually talking about, our strategy backlog. Now development cadence, we decided, okay, as of now there was no defined cadence. Sometimes you were doing 3 weeks, sometimes you were doing 2 weeks. We said, okay, there will be two different natures of team will be forming. One will be that will be 2 weeks iterations, and another will be a rapid action team that we may give them the name as rapid action, but they were using a Kanban team. And at that point of time, there were 3 to 4 teams, and rapid action teams, they were 1 to 2 teams. Now, at that point of time, we still leave 3 teams because we did got enough confidence from the that particular team's management. They were doing kind of a data science project and BI related projects they were working into. So that was not part of that. We later bring them into that Kanban team, but initially this was the scope that we have started with. Now, when we mentioned the team reorg, so in this team reorg, we mentioned, okay, over here, we will be forming this 4 team, and in this 4 team, it will not be component based, it will be pure functionality based, and these will be the 4 Scrum team that I have mentioned. There will be having 7 to 9 members team, or 5 to 9 members team. We'll be having development team members, 1 product owner, 1 Scrum Master, and based on the nature of job, they will be working on these particular functionality development. So any development related to Magento, that's a totally different functionalities, and we'll be having few tester. And here we had few shared UI guys, because the UI, we had a very less number of UI people. There was 2 questions came up, that bringing that UI out of the team and put it as part of your definition of ready, or bring them as a part of your development work. So initially what we have constructed, we says, okay, they will be part of the development team. And similarly, they will be working on this. Tester was earlier having a dedicated testing team. Now we says, okay, now all the testers will need to be part of each team. So we distributed the tester accordingly. There were few communications. We said, okay, this is what we are starting, that we need to have some synchronizations meeting, because multiple team they are working on. So there should be a Scrum of Scrum. And similarly, the PO sync, though the PO sync terms came from the Scaled Agile, but that's very important. I don't want to mention that go on Scaled Agile or something, or safe. But PO syncs, there are 5 different POs. They are working for different business owners. So they needs to have a synchronization. What's their backlog looks like? What's their roadmap? In case there are some dependencies with one PO to another PO, that is also required. And we also says there will be a business PO sync. Means as of now, the business was communicating with the product owner directly. So we says, okay, we need to have a defined at least once a week. The business, all the businesses and product owner should meet and talk about what the business vision is, what the readiness of the PO is, though that can be done at the time of your sprint review when you are doing. But most of the time, sprint review, we do demonstrations and we do some activities on the current backlog what we have. But the synchronizations with all the business and POs, that was actually giving a very good synchronizations on the visions and the backlog mapping. And also we defined, okay, these are the events each team will be following: grooming, sprint planning, review, retrospective, and daily scrum or daily stand-up. And initially we'll start with some monitoring that as management was very much into if we go into story point, how do we know how much they are working on or how much time they are working on, because this particular management, they were sitting at Middle East and the team was in India. So they have a certain mindset already that if they are working in India, maybe they are not utilizing the time. So we committed, okay, we'll be give you some reporting that will say how we are utilizing our capacity, and also at the end of the every sprint we'll show you how exactly your sprint closer along with some trends. And burn down, though it's actually meant for only team, but they wanted to see, once we actually given some training, they wanted to see, we will also like to see how the burn down comes up. I am sure they don't understand from that burn down perspective, but that is what we mentioned at the part of our the beginning journey. Now the next step, what I need to remove this annotation. Okay, so the now next steps, when we talk about the flows, transparencies, and visions, there is another slider we actually created in details about how the requirement will be flow, but I'll just mention in a high level that all business owners, there are kind of 5 business owners, they got their idea, and we had a sets of product owners, they were directly aligned with different teams. We introduce a governance team over here in between, because many times once we implemented, the business owner said, no, this is what we don't wanted. A product owner may have not understood what exactly we're looking for. So we said, okay, any items that will come to the product owner, that should pass through governance team. Maybe business owner and PO will be directly talked with, but governance team, who are kind of a management, who are work very closely with the business and the product owners, we identify 3 those people who are not of external to the business, or new to the business, or not new to the product owner. And they just we actually implemented a approval process in our Jira workflow. So any requirement that comes from business owners, that actually goes through governance team, so that they can get a support from the governance team, both the product owner and business owners, in case something expected and delivered something else. And sometimes, many times, they says, okay, based on the prioritizations or no-go decisions, that used to take by the governance team. For the transparency, we started doing status reports and metrics. So status reports, as a midweek status, though it's status report, you might have heard, as per Agile, we should not go in a status report. But when we are transforming, we cannot transform everything at one go and stop everything or cut off everything they were used to. The status reporting, what our strategy was, let's do with more on they are looking for, and eventually change something with the agile specific reporting. So for an example, instead of hours, we'll move into story points. Instead of total number spent, we will be going into the velocities. Instead of how many stories they have completed, we may go into a commitment reliability. That's the plan. And similarly, metrics, we started showing them some velocity metrics, capacity utilization, how many bugs created, what is the defect leakage, what's your scope creep is happening, and how the trend is. So and that's way we got few reporting area, and also we'll be showing them the maturity index, like how we have our maturity assessment template where we used to do every month. For initially 3 months we have done that, how we are improving, what are the areas we are trying still not improving, what are the areas we have not tried, we need to try that, all those areas, and we showcase them. This is how the team have progressed. Few of the areas, even if we say the team is now doing better story point estimations or story point sizing, that was not giving any values to the business, mainly the management, because they were not bothered about story points, they just bothered about how much we have delivered. So few matrices we started, maturity index we have included, but that was not adding any value. Now for the vision, we says, okay, as we discussed that we have worked on an enterprise backlog or strategy backlog, where all the stories from all the POs should come into one enterprise backlog. And then from there, we have administrate our Jira in such a way, we created something called engineering team. At the backlog level, also at the enterprise level, we get an predictive engineering team that we used to select, and based on that, your Epic used to have a different workflow status. One of the status in their Epic workflow was construction, ready for construction. Once Epic is reached to ready for construction, and it already have a team aligned with that Epic, that Epic will start visible into that particular team. We can have one team or two teams working on the same Epic, that can also be possible. So that's one area where we were having the enterprise backlog. And also we have introduced a Jira portfolio for the organizations, so at the product owner level they can make some planning, at the Epic level they can create some initiatives, and create some different themes and look into how their plan goes for upcoming few months or years, not years, primarily months. Now this is one of the points that we know, that any transformation is very hard when a business is doing good, even there are tremendous scope of improvement. So this is for that very much applicable for that particular business, because that business, in terms of about the business, the growth, they were into a e-commerce business, and they were doing very well on their business sides. And many times we observe they are thinking, as our business is going very good, why we need to go into Agile? And that's actually a very tremendous pressure for us, like how we can make them understand that you can still do better, because for them we don't understand that money area where they are earning the money by selling their products, but we understand the process, and we identified there are lots of improvement opportunities. And that was actually a little hard for us to make them understand this is what exactly the case is. Now before we start that, we wanted to set up some of the expectations for them. So when I'm talking about expectations from the management, we say communications to the business and POs to follow and maintain the strategy backlog, because there is something team members cannot do for maintaining the strategy backlog. If you really want to have that visibility, initially for some time still the car is not getting the auto start, you need to push it sometime. From team level, pushing the management or pushing the POs will be little hard, but if you can get the push from management, it will be easy. Also we had the expectations setting up for the governance model. I think someone, you are talking, you are not in mute. Okay, I'll just put you on mute. Okay, setting up the governance model. As we talked about the governance model, this is what we need from the management to form the governance model, because governance model or the team of that governance team is not just is 3 members will put them, because though we need to have those authority, they need, people needs to be connect with the business. We already identified, but we added it over here so that we mention with the management multiple times whenever we are engaging, this is what we are looking for, so that we can have our requirement flow smooth, we can have our communication channel properly, and the prioritization. So this governance model later is they actually become kind of any kind of DC, because whoever doing the transformation, they will not be there for a long time, and we mentioned that someone needs to be there who can make a check on everything is happening, and if it is not happening, if it is not monitored, if it is not followed up, you may go out of the track. And also one thing most importantly from the management sides, it has to be come from the management that the proposed practice has to be a mandate throughout organization. Otherwise, if one team is doing, another team is not doing, that will create a problem compared with during the team level, that that team is not doing why we should do. And also there are many areas people will start taking some relaxations, or somewhere they will neglect to do that, but we need to have management supports at every level as a mandate, and then it will be easy for the transformer as well. All right, so this is once this is actually the overall transformations that we have done. And we says, okay, once we will do this, after 3 months we'll start talking about DevOps, because they were having a team who were doing some DevOps activity, but they were not doing that continuous integrations, or they were not doing that any automation testing. It was not having the handshake of operations and development at that point of time, though DevOps implementation was not part of our agile transformation scope, but we says we can take it, do it later once this team is come up to this level. And maturing and monitoring is also there. Now, few challenges that we have faced and how we mitigated them. So we'll talk about few challenges after we started the transformations and practicing them. There are sometimes new stakeholders comes in, and that needs training and frequent visit to the client locations. This is actually what we have faced. Lack of handholding with the business. Many times business in new business is coming in, new PO is coming in. The business is something they are suddenly, as we are not closely monitoring at the business side, they were something getting in, not connected with the overall process, and they were not very much connected. Even those we mentioned that there will be PO and business sync, but they were that was not happening. So that was also we are requiring our training and demonstrations multiple time, inviting the stakeholders uh, by asking them, multiple follow-up was happening. We didn't had trained or experienced Scrum Master over here, because we were making Scrum Masters who were kind of having some kind of management roles earlier. So that is one of the problems. The hiring was not happening for the Scrum Master role, because they were management was too much looking into the technical resource, and at the time of setting the expectations, we have not mentioned that we need to have some Scrum Master to be hired. So that was one of the problems. So again, this was a training and frequent visit to client locations, because there are 2-3 teams they have at the Middle East, their client locations, and the Scrum Master were totally blank on what exactly we are doing. Then support and development work with the same team member, resulting task switching, sprint commitment, and incompletion. So even we have done that. We saw sometimes management comes on Tuesday, says, okay, this is something we need by tomorrow, just work on along with the rapid action teams. That was happening. Even we said we will be forming one dedicated team, then we actually reorg that rapid action teams. With earlier, the rapid action team was with a few numbers of skill sets members, so we actually formed majority of the skill set required for the ad hoc request we are getting. So we changed on the team structures and form a Kanban team. Then when there are few immature user story, frequent changes in the user story that we have observed. Your acceptance criteria was not there. So those are though coming at a very team level, but which was actually got we already gave a training to the product owners, that how you will be writing stories, how you will be breaking down stories, how you will be writing acceptance criteria. But even though those was not religiously followed, so we need to continue the handholding with the PO, story writing workshop, then again do those same kind of trainings. Readiness of backlog resulting to delay in state the sprint, cause waste of capacity. So again, that was continuously happening, because see, whatever you have planned that this is how we will be implementing, and you can see this is a very foolproof plan, but once you will do that, you'll not be able to see everything is done based on your expectations. You will still have this visualization, this will happen, and after doing that you need to do multiple hand holding for these kind of issues. There are few challenges more we have. Dev and QA ratio not having that TCEP skill. So we were actually working on silos. One team is working on skill set one, one member is working on skill set one, two member is working on skill set two. The stories, even those are they started developing, okay, one story is breaking down into two developer based on their skill sets, and no one else was there to compensate in case they are not available on them, or they got sick. And the planning or the structuring of the stories, breaking down into stories, was not very much satisfactory to me. So we started doing some cross training and a few new hiring that we have suggested, that we need these skill sets, at least 2-3 members for every team. And also whoever willing to go learn few new areas, we started conducting some those training areas. Team members don't wanted to work 100% on support work. Yeah, so as we formed our rapid action teams, we realized that rapid action team member says, we joined here for doing development work, why I'm doing support work. So when I actually have prepared this slide, that point of time we still I mentioned still working on it. But what we have done like that, okay, we don't want to change the team members very frequently, so we decide, okay, let's work for 2 months and then we'll change you to development team and some team members will come. So that is what we got an agreement from the management also, because sometimes management responded, okay, this is the feedback we are getting from the support team members, so everyone can be motivated. Management's high priority request, sometimes killing the plan. That is what we talked about, and again, that's kind of a repetitive point. We formed a rapid action team, and sometimes we realize there are micromanagement on effort hours from the management, who is working on how many hours, whether that person have logged 8 hours or not. That is actually coming up, and at the end of the sessions, we have not able to make that management's mindset. We give multiple discussion with them. At the time of discussion, they agreed, and later again they asked, okay, why that person have not logged that many hours, so was the person was not working, something like that. New team members that we got, so there were the data science team and DevOps teams, they were there. So we later formed a Kanban team, and there are few complaints we got from the management that you are getting too much of meeting. Ideally, they there were not so much of events or cadence that they were going into, but now they started going in, talking about, okay, now you are having backlog refinement, you are having sprint planning, review, retrospective. So we explained events, their benefits, and they at that point of time they seems like agreed but not 100% convinced. We make them understand, actually these all those training, all those meetings that we are talking about is the only meetings they are doing. Earlier what they are doing, many unaccounted discussions they are going into, sometime going into requirement clarification. 50% of their sprint durations they are going into talking with the product owner, waiting for the product owner's availability, identifying whom they will talk with. And there are many areas, there were lots of time they are delayed, or the time was wasted that was not accounted or logged anywhere. Now at least you know these are the fixed amount of time, 16 hours approximately for the 2 weeks of sprint, where you can mention every week if they work for 40 hours, so out of 80 hours they are just spending 16 hours, 16 to 20 hours for this kind of meeting. And that's pretty much okay. Earlier they were using kind of 40 to 45 minutes, 45 hours for on the delays, or on discussing with the product owner discuss with the stakeholders. Till that time the team is waiting. When product owner will get back the information from stakeholders, they will update that. So this is all what was happening, and somehow seems like they were convinced, but ultimately at some point of time we still think they may not have that kind of confidence yet. Okay, great. So we are into the last slide, so I can go for some question answers if anyone have quickly. So let me quickly look into our YouTube. In YouTube, I can see, can I have the link for this meeting? Sorry, I just saw that little later. And I can search Trinton 2122. Hello, this is Percy. All right, anyone have any questions that you want to ask?
And Niladri, can you just now take up my previous question regarding that IT and non-IT communication and integration?
Yeah, see, if you go for a non-IT, will be little easy, because in non-IT you may not be having primarily you will start with your Kanban approach. You may need to make them, okay, these are the disciplines you will go. You may go non-IT means, can you tell me the sector, that which sector you're
Actually,
talking
I'm
about?
asking when we are doing the delivery or the development or the IT part, right? So when we say we are doing organization-wide agile transformation, so definitely we need to have our this agile functioning or the agile coordination with non-IT
Yeah,
functions like
it's
PMO
very,
as well as HR or finance. So how that coordination goes? That is my
yeah,
question.
see, normally when we talk about organizational wide agile transformation, um, we understand this is on the IT part also, but you are right that when you're talking about organizational transformation, that should go for your HR and finance as well. But HR, doing agile in HR and doing agile in finance, both are actually having, or in IT will go in differently. Because if I just talk about agile, talk about HR have many different functions. So maybe HR have their back office operation, HR have their recruitment operation, HR have their payroll operation. And what you need to do at any kind of agile transformation, first need to identify their flow of work. When a work started, what are the flows it goes through? Is there any approval process? When it is ending? Who all are involved on that flow? And based on that, if you just implement a Kanban, then that will be you will able to do that, but you need to give multiple trainings to them. You need to find actual for every work. For an example, if you just take about a recruitment have a process. Like, so there is a requirement came up, then they will be raising a job hunt page, or talk with a consultant, or post into LinkedIn, or create an ad. Then the next step, if the candidates inputs came in, they may need to go into multiple candidates workflow under one job. What will be the workflow for the candidates? Candidates profile receive, candidates let's say shortlisted, interview 1, interview 2, selected, rejected, or waiting for negotiation. Those will be the different flows you can actually talk about. Make the proper flow, make a Kanban board visible, and go for all those throughputs, or if CFD is applicable, apply them. So you need to implement, and you at one person may not be able to do for the entire organizations. Someone who is doing agile transformation, who have a prior experience on, have those transformation on the HR or finance, I think they will be a little better person to help them visualize the flow of work they will be going for. Right?
Fine, fine.
All right. Is there any other questions anyone have? Okay. So I believe to everyone, you already also have registered for a webinar we have tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a webinar on product owner anti-patterns. I think at the same time. So if you have not registered, you can register that now. Tomorrow morning, I'll send a meeting invite along with that. But this particular discussions or the webinar will also be published on YouTube, which is right now going on live, and we'll be publishing it there as well. You can watch it later from there if you want. And if there is any other questions, anyone you want to ask?
Yeah, hi Niladri.
Yeah.
This is Tanvi. So, in one of your previous slide, we talked about these meetings, the PO sync and the business PO sync calls.
Mhm.
So, who is the one facilitating these calls? Is it the Scrum Masters or somebody from the product side?
So as we talked about Spock at different level, so that Spock will be, so someone at the business team, we identified we need to have a one product owner for the Spock. So we don't need a dedicated person. Initially, when we were doing that as a coach, whoever is the transformer, they were facilitating, this is what you need to do. Our goal is to not to add a new role into that company, have someone who can actually take that or make the team self-organized. So initially we were doing the facilitations that time we were doing, and at the end we left them. We realized they are continuously doing it. They don't need any facilitations because they just need to come into there, discuss, and then update their product backlog. That is what was expected, and that was happening after 2 months or 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Ninadri.
Yeah.
Yeah, for these POCs, what kind of questions were you asking and why? What was the benefits?
So PO sync, all the product owner, maybe it's every time they don't need to spend lots of time, but all the product owner, even they are working for someone was working for a application called Magento, someone is working for ERP. Within ERP we have two, because ERP is too big, we have two different teams, two different POs, and sometimes there are the synchronizations between Magento's work and PO's work. So the product owner was actually talking about what their different team, what their stories have dependencies with other product owners team, how they will be prioritizing, how they are designing as and structuring their requirement, what they got from their business owner, do they have a common business owner. So any kind of synchronizations or discussion required within the product owners related to the intra team dependencies or prioritization, they used to discuss that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Niladri.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Mercy. The question I'll have to ask is, I know this for a large organization, this case study, what advice would you tell a
No, this
startup?
is not for a large organization. This one, when we have done, there were total 6-7 teams or maybe 8 teams max. So large organizations may have many 40-50 teams. I will treat them as a large, or 40-50 only development team. Then you can say it as a large organization, but that's okay. Let's go ahead with your question. Let's see what's your question is.
Okay, no, what I was asking for a new business that want to make sure they are following the Agile Transformation route, what advice would you have for them?
Hello, I am not able to hear you. I think I lost you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I lost you in between. Can you please go ahead?
I was saying, yeah, for a startup or a new business that wants to adapt the Agile way of working, where would they start from? What advice, I mean?
Yeah, so first you can ask the question why they want to go agile, means let them realize they need to go agile and what makes them, so you can understand that what's the benefit and what area we'll start talking about. Because as you think, we talked about a tipping point that they wants to do agile because their client is asking, or they sees in the industry or in the market everyone is going agile, or they actually really wants to do agile because someone on their organizations, they know how agile works. So if you get a right answer, you will be proceed from there. So first you need to understand and ask them, why do you want to go agile? What makes you want to? Because sometimes, many times, what happen is, we as a agile transformer, we are doing consulting, we run our own business and we try to sell agile, but don't do that. Because first you need to understand, whenever you are putting your time, it's their time as well, their money as well, and if you don't get the success at the end, it will be both way, it's not satisfactory. So try to understand, does agile transformation really required for them? If they are doing agile transformation, first you need to understand, if they says, okay, we want to go as organization is market in the industry, everyone is going agile, we'll go into agile, then you can actually start talking about, okay, this is the fundamental areas, maybe you need to change from a traditional way. I believe it will not be a problem, or you already doing these new cultures, but agile have some disciplines, some behaviors we need to follow. There are some principles we need to follow, and take the buy-in before you jump into the transformation and observation at the first level. That's how we will start.
Thank you very kindly.
Yeah. All right. Is there any other questions anyone have?
Niladri, like as you had just answered, like Mercy, like to add to that, what are the things which we should be able to justify ourselves, whether should we go for agile or we should not go for agile? Like, what is the criteria?
Okay, so
Santosh here.
yeah, Santosh. So criteria, see, to me, any development can go into agile. Only thing, we need to have that willingness from the management. Based on that, if you have that support, you will be able to transform them into agile. Primarily, if you're talking about a software development domain, you can go into agile, because agile is just a values and principle. Following those values and principle, I'm not saying that you need to go into one particular framework. You can apply any framework that best fit into that particular organization, but going agile, just following the values and principle, any organizations can do that.
Neelaj, one question here on the during agile transformation. Does the transformer or the agile coach work as a team along with the scrum masters? Or I know the transformation should be across teams, across members, but does the scrum master play a significant role during this process?
Wow. Okay. Okay. If you are hearing, so Scrum Master, I will not mention that word significant, because significant is actually doesn't measurable, but Scrum Master definitely involved on the transformation, particularly when Scrum Master is implementing the guidance, the implementing the process identified for the team. Because as a transformer, as a coach, for an example, you are one coach who there are 40 teams. You have got, okay, this 6 team or 5 teams you will be transforming. All the coach have a coach's corner where they actually talking same like PO Sync and Scrum Masters, Scrum of Scrum. All coaches corner, or all the coaches come together and synchronize and talk about how their team is doing and how they interact with the team. Definitely, as a coach, you need to go along with the team, but every day talking with each team member, for if you have 5 teams, each team member have 9, talking with 45 members every day may not be feasible. But you can actually give some idea to the Scrum Master, this is what I am expecting, that you can discuss, find out what they are doing, what their challenges is, what their problem is, and connect with the Scrum with the coaches. And Scrum Master can definitely connect with the coaches. Coach may say, okay, can you try this thing on your team based on what you have mentioned? Scrum Master will implement that on the team. So that's where Scrum Master is involved. Okay, any
Hey,
other
Niladi,
questions?
there's one more question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, this looks a good scenario for the implementation of SAFe framework. Was there any particular reason we didn't go for it?
See, SAFe, when we talk about SAFe, SAFe itself is little a complicated framework, because you first, as of now, if you at the very beginning says, okay, will not be doing any development work for one sprint, targeting your IP iteration, that will be, I think, will be our roadblock. Okay, let's not go into agile, because the organization who was doing on a rapid action team, and if you says we'll do 1 week continue no development, only IP, that needs a different kinds of transformation and mindset. And the team, the management was not yet ready, because the management, if you go into a safe structure, your program level, where you need to have your RTE, there are lots of training is required. And creating a safe structure, primarily a Middle East based company where they are too much into micromanagement, it was little difficult, and that's why we didn't move into that. Though I was SPC at that point of time, but I didn't recommend it go for SPCs for safe at that point of time to them.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hello, Niladri. Very good session. Thank you for that. Just
Thanks,
one
Prabha.
question. So, as Agile is expected to welcome changes, is it a good metric? I think you mentioned about measuring or tracking the scope creep. So, is that a good metric, and who uses this data?
See, normally what we do, we use the scope creep with our product owner, individual teams, and we actually talk about, when we talk about metric, the metric should not be any times taken as a negative point, even it is showing negative values. We need to have that data as an improvement opportunity. So if you are having a scope creep, when you says welcome change, we need to understand what exactly the meaning of welcome change. So welcome change does not mean that once you have committed your sprint, then you still welcoming changes on your commitment. That's not what welcome change says. Welcome change says, if you compare with waterfall, you do a plan and then you continue follow the plan for 1 year. But over here, you are committing for 2 weeks and working on that 2 weeks. Then again, you are welcoming change, updating your emergent backlog, and taking the most prioritized story. That is what you are welcoming change. Welcoming change does not mean that you need to change the commitment within your sprint. Whatever you have committed, there is no change allowed. Go into that. Now, scope creep, if you talk about scope creep, that's internally is very much important, that why product owner or the team is unable to finalize what they need for next 2 weeks. At least what we are expecting, that you should have a vision for 2 months, but if you don't have a vision for 2 weeks, that means there is a gap. We need to identify what exactly the problem is, why they are not able to visualize, why there are something coming up too frequently. If there are too frequently coming up on high priority, we have a rapid action team, let them work on that. Let's not team change their focus from their commitment. Whatever you have commitment, you identify your sprint goal. Everyone should focus on the sprint goal for the next 2 weeks. You're getting my point?
Yeah, good. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Ladri, thank you for a brilliant session. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. So if we don't have any questions, can we have a quick feedback? What exactly this webinar gone? If there is any areas that you want me to improve or something you liked.
Yeah, Niradi, this is Debanjan here. You're able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I would like to congratulate you on keeping this very framework agnostic And try to focus more on the values and the principles, and that also clearly comes out in your responses also. And that is what we should be looking at as agilists and coaches, to be framework agnostic and live the values and principles. So that really came out brilliantly. So I wanted to compliment you on that. An excellent session. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Devanjan.
Thank you very much.
Niladri, I'd like to say that it was a brilliant session, really well broken down. I love the fact that it's more practical because it's a case study of something that has happened. I learned a lot. So I want to say thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mercy. All right, great. I think we don't have anyone who wants to talk. Let's count 1 to 5, then we'll wind this up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, great then. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
The session for Niladri, registration for tomorrow's session.
Yeah, you can register that. We'll send the meeting invite by tomorrow morning. Also, you will get the meeting link once you registered on your email. It will automatically send the meeting link to you.
Okay. Where's the link for the session? Are you going to share here or in the Telegram?
No, I'll not be sharing it here. The same place where you have registered, you will be able to get another registration box on the side of that. So you can register it there.
Will it be shown on your LinkedIn also? Because how I joined this session is because I got a YouTube notification because I subscribed to your channel, but I hadn't registered. That's where I asked for the Zoom link and you gave it to me. This Devanjan here.
Okay, I'll go live also. So all channels will go live. So today I was not able to focus on YouTube because I need to switch from this screen to YouTube screen. Ideally, tomorrow I'll not be the speaker. Someone else will be the speaker, but I will be assisting on monitoring the YouTube questions and all those areas.
Right. No, so what I was saying is that will you be sharing the link to register on your LinkedIn also so that I can take a look? Because as I said, I had not registered for this, but I got the notification through YouTube and that's how I was able to join and then switch to Zoom eventually.
Okay, so I'll just post that in LinkedIn as well. If you are connected with me, you will get the registration link because I'll not be putting the link in LinkedIn. I'll just give the registration link. If you register there, yeah.
Sure. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Is there anyone? Thanks. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow once again. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hello. Hey. Hi, Marshi. Yes, I don't know where you have called. You called on Zoom or where did you call me?